Hey guys, how's it going? One of the main reasons why I don't like religion, other than the fact that it wants to interfere with people's lives, is the fact that its followers insist on being intellectually ignorant and arrogant about their beliefs. And I'm going to do a little video about conspiracy theorists because I think they share a lot of traits to the religious. Now, I think it's important when I start this video to say that I actually used to be quite a conspiracy theorist myself. I did believe that 9/11 was an inside job and that the Bush government took the towers down in a controlled demolition. I watched like Loose Change and Zeitgeist, all these little videos, and I've got to say, to their credit, the guys who made Loose Change and Zeitgeist actually make quite compelling films, even though they're complete bullshit and there's absolutely no facts, and all they ever do is ask questions. They are actually really well made, and I might even, dare I say, have some sympathy for truthers, because I was one myself and they got me and I completely bought into it, and I think one of the main reasons people buy into conspiracy theories is because they're quite alluring and taboo and quite sexy and naughty. And anybody who's been watching my videos for a few years will tell you, maybe a year or two ago, I was like really fucking going after Islam, man. It was like a big thing, and one of the reasons why I was just going so hard after it is because in politically correct multicultural England, it is not okay to say something bad about Muslims. You're instantly erased if you say something bad about it. So that kind of danger about it really attracted me. And then, like, when the whole kind of Breivik thing happened and I realized that actually some people can take a good intention and take it way fucking too far, bad things happen. And I actually realized that I was getting like obsessed with this whole thing, and yeah, like I said, it was dangerous, and I felt like I knew something that nobody else did. I thought that I could see the problem, and while I still think there actually still definitely is a big problem with Islam in Europe and in the world, I'm just nowhere near obsessed with it. And I think this is what happens to a lot of conspiracy theorists. They become obsessed and with a certain world view, and it becomes an identity. And it's exactly the same the way religious people develop bit by bit this kind of worldview of everything. And one of the main reasons why I think that they share a lot of similarities, horrible similarities, is their refusal to look at evidence. And something you'll hear creationists and global warming deniers say a lot of the time is, oh, well, I'm not going to believe the secular government, the scientists, the atheist scientists. They're horrible. They don't know it. Look, here's a scientist who thinks creationism isn't true. Here's a scientist who thinks global warming is a myth. And they point to maybe 1,000 people out of 2 million that might believe contrary to popular belief, and they take that and they say that's evidence. And this is exactly the same thing when it comes to conspiracy theories. And the 9/11 case is obviously the biggest one that's happening today. I'm going to try and debunk the 9/11 conspiracy as quickly as I can. First and foremost, I find it really ironic how conspiracy theorists who think 9/11 was an inside job hate George Bush and think he was the dumbest president of all time, which he probably was, yet somehow he was able to get away with the most elaborate, intricate terrorist plot against the US forever. And no one fucking saw anything, no one's ever come out. And people point to things like, well, what about Watergate? What about the Gulf of Tonkin? What about them? The fucking government did shit then. 9/11, that must be a conspiracy too. Well, guess what? Watergate, Gulf of Tonkin came out. This shit comes out. People fucking talk. And you'll probably bring up, what about the Manhattan Project, where America was developing the atomic bomb? There were hundreds of thousands of people involved. It never got out. Well, Watergate, Gulf of Tonkin, Manhattan Project, this was 60 odd years ago, where there weren't mobile phones with cameras, CCTV everywhere, the internet, which were around in 2001. Believe me, if there was a conspiracy and thousands of people were involved, maybe one or two of them might get a bit drunk one night or a bit angry and say some shit, but no one has ever said anything. And to me, that just says a hell of a lot. There is no way in fucking hell you would get this shit out. Truthers make the fatal mistake of believing that the government is competent and it can't shut its mouth. It can shut its mouth, and I find that so ironic because pretty much the whole mantra and ideology of truth is that the government is evil and conniving and can get away with shit, yet the opposite is just so obviously true. Secondly, I want to talk about this controlled demolition myth that people talk about. If you actually look at the Twin Towers or any controlled demolition, like you truthers like to say, you look at a controlled demolition, it looks just like that. Well, tell you what, mate, controlled demolitions happen from the bottom up. Buildings go down from the bottom where the explosives are put. And guess what? You know, if you ever tried wiring a building, it's pretty much a fucking year-long job. You have to wire pretty much every single girder, fucking steel structure in the building. Yet nobody in the towers ever saw anybody coming in, never ever saw anyone dragging in bags of thermite, any of that shit. No one ever saw any of that crap. Yeah, it was a controlled demolition. And if you actually look really closely when the towers come down, you can see massive steel girders remaining seconds after the entire tower has come down, like jagged things going hundreds of meters up into the air. In a controlled demolition, that would not happen. Those tussles will ever be the first thing to come down. You also hear bullshit like, what about, buildings can't go down without that. Steel melts at 2,000 degrees. Well, the steel did not need to melt for these buildings to come down. All they needed to do was weaken themselves. The structures needed to weaken, and the whole thing buckles. Like, really, just watch the fucking towers come down hard enough without your agenda that the government did it. And you can see, it's quite clear that the building just comes down bit by bit. If there were explosives in the building, which is just utterly ridiculous, how come the fire didn't set one of them off? Can you imagine had one of those planes not come down? And this leads me on to my third point. If the government really wanted to go to war, which everyone seems to do, 9/11 happened because the government went to war, why didn't they just fucking put a bomb in the fucking bottom of one of the Twin Towers and set it off? Why didn't they just let the planes hit? Like, you know what, I will say one thing about 9/11. It's not impossible that the Bush government knew about it, that these guys were hijacking these planes and let it happen. That is not impossible. Everything else truthers believe in is fucking impossible, but it is possible George Bush let it happen. If he wanted to go to war, why didn't he just let the planes hit? Why did he need to take the towers down? It was completely unnecessary and a huge risk, yet for some reason he took it. And then people say, WT7, what about World Trade Center 7, the third building that went down? No building has ever gone down by fire. Well, no building also has ever been hit with 2 skyscrapers falling on top of it with burning ash and burn uncontrollably for 7 hours, and there are fucking shitloads of firefighters who have testimony to that the building was going to go down. It was obvious. Yet those firefighters don't matter. Yet the odd one or two who thought they heard explosions, that's evidence there are explosions in the building. No, you pick and choose who you listen to. And again, if the government wanted to go to war, why the fuck would they bring WT7 down? If it's so crazy and elaborate that happened, why would they risk it? What, because it had evidence in the building? Have you ever heard of a shredder? Why don't they get rid of it like that? It's just all complete madness, and it just blows my mind. And if you ever watch a conspiracy theory, why I fucking detest them, and they're just like creationists. They don't show you the whole picture. When you see the building go down in these conspiracy videos, WT7, there's a good 10 seconds before that they cut out of it where you can actually see windows blowing out in the building, the tops of the building falling into it. But when you watch it in a conspiracy theory, they just cut to it the second before the towers go down and say it's a controlled demolition. So it's all complete nonsense, and it just blows my mind that people believe in this shit, and that's just why it's just like a religion. People who are religious don't want to look at the evidence and the facts. They ignore it, and they have the nerve to fucking say to everybody else that we can't see the truth. Truthers are worse than the religious. I'm not even kidding. Like, admittedly, they don't affect my fucking life. I'm not worried about a truth of fucking setting off a nuclear bomb like in Iran or whatever. But at least the religious grow up with this ideology. It's forced upon them. When religious people defend their faith, they're kind of defending their lifestyles. Truthers, You guys just believe the shit despite the evidence because it makes you feel so wise and special, and that you know something that nobody else does, and maybe you'll be the one to fucking save the world. And actually, let me also point out something else. If 9/11 was an inside job and there was evidence, don't you think there'd be a few journalists here or there who'd like to make a name for themselves? Perhaps the Russian or the Chinese governments wouldn't like to expose America and ruin its reputation and gain global prominence. You don't think that if it was real, people would come out? If the 9/11 truth movement was real and it was credible and it had evidence, it would be front page fucking news all over the world if there was real evidence that 9/11 was an inside job. And there is no evidence, and like there is no evidence for religion, you truthers, you religious people, you just don't like reality, and so what you do is you create your own little world with your own little fucking opinions, and you ignore facts and reality, and you even have the fucking nerve to say that we are sheep. Well, sorry mate, it is you who are fast asleep, and it is us who are wide awake.
Following all of my instructions,